English? Can I take a picture of that word so that
Absolutely, of course.
I forgot my book? Here we are. I thought we were just starting the beginning, right? Number one. Or here.
Yeah, this is the last chapter on this
Okay.
3 or 4.
We still have some left, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I kept looking for mine and I think I left it up more. Okay, thank you. So Andrew and Sarah are driving back from South Dakota. And they're in busy traffic.
Begin with the High Sutra in English on page 2.
On what page?
Page 2. Thus I have heard, at one time the Blessed claimed the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with the greatest gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the 5 skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The 5 skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata, Om Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One has said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Lama Gampo Jetsun Jame Yama Chaselo Angelo Denye Nita Namda Rasavi Jene de Go Jesus Nije to Gale Base Anda Sebe Dure Mari Meta Duma Jizeve
Rasa kala buji taze, yana juju yang song. Ruda jero nyamo nilo, peje jagro roze. Mare meze dunga nyugo, chenye juze radre. Dene daje sajo tasun, yode lozo yaze tuyo. Jada jada juni gede, talo meze jambe yamado. Arabazanadi, O Arabazanadi, O Arabazanadi. Say then, Cheche Cheravazeti, Talo Dimu Mabarasane, Kada de Jolo Tobaye, Rodru Bobe Nawa Sadu.
Continuing with the short mandala offering on page 16. Saji Puki
Choshe me dora, rira nije nide gebadi, sanje jendo minde buwayi, loga namda jila jebarayo.
Jetsu Lama
Tamba jina je, chego kala cheze jujene, cheda zambe duje zemala. Saje juje jaba to,
Yedam Guru
Enamedala gane yatayame.
Refuge prayer on page 22. Sanje
Chedam soje chonama, janjo bardo dane jazuji. Dage juje jibe sonandi, chala benjire sanje nubayo.
Sanje
Chedam soje chonama, janjo bardo dane jazuji. Dage juje jibe sonandi, chala benjire sanje nubayo.
Sanje
Chedam soje chonama, janjo bardo dane jazuji. Dage juje jibe sonandi, chala benjire sanje nubayo. 이게 가만 같은데.
라,
이게
같이 해서.
같이.
이제 그거 먹어야 돼. 눈이라도.
여기 데이트 가서 참잖아. 다음에 요거는 그걸 해서 이제 다들이 쉬어야 되는 맛이잖아. 기와 변하는 데 자스 되는 맛이잖아. zambujubi choga shin chaza la so kyubar jas tande kare so karson barda ane rala wande luje lonju geza sonre dade sonde ane lue tanwa ane lu sonwa ane pewa lu tawa watene jeje yung de na je mai ne jibare geta ine tawa sonwa tawa perwas tena no da so ndi kare ya geta perwas ya dere chadan de kare geta pedang ta hina wa kan sonwa na perwas ya koni kondo ane peya terwa 제가 내가 zambuju choga 시야데 또 zambuju 문화 잡아서 zam주해야 돼. 저 대나에다 차차와 와서 영화 뒤봐. 그래서 이거 대나시 차체다 아니 주바표야다 지수랑 지와다 뭐아제바와 소베간다 내가 도안이 있는 소소하게 예 게자데 아니 공배당을 해서다 제가 모두 게서 공배당에는 되게 못보도와 그냥 지세랑 제초데 근데 제가 로드시라 땅 먹여와 소소하게 양 걸리시라 좀 먹여봐 아니 게자는 시비지야 망보 배도기다 뭐 라렌지요래 라렌스그래 대기지요와 저런데 그중거래 매바 중에 로체 초들라 게라지스요를 쳐서 송사하다시 매바 중에서 몇시라 제목에 나는 서로 첨보도 통해 대가를 나는 라지 게자리야 지스요는 지야들이 해야 돼 그런데 아니 그런 지스요랑 세야 연합디만은 해야 돼 근데 지스요랑 지야스 상보 다 지스요를 지다더라 니래 매기와래 자와 멤버들 지스요랑 제조요 말해 자와 상보들 지스요랑 제고래 파조 메레지게 네파냥탄들이야 칼라트와 있는데도 제 랑가를 파서로 버리 지고요 있네요 대비 야고래서 근데 그 컨트롤만 되는 것도 되게妙지 근데 빼야고래서 근데 또아래지 저거 또 되게 칼라무랑 되지야 근데 이제 지금 칼라는 집중이 근데 빼야고래서 다 봐줘 문에 파게 뒤쇼 공배 동화가 나 되게 때려야 그러고 문에 파게 제사야 돼야 보면 돼야 뱀새야 버려서 근데 뭐 벌라니네 지금 되지 제동이 요 쇼스 때는 제가들 지수랑 쓰고 그래 배나나 히타이 그다 시베 타이를 제가 동행 요딩이 되는 위치에 현다 저기 돌아는 집행한 통은 대한 지수랑 제 배야 버려서 어찌디 배 나히 잘못된 시비 차대로 강에 트레이딩 때려야 하는 돌아는 지금 지금 패도를 졌더래 배야 버려 산지스라고 때려 배야 버려 때려 야와라 산 근데 소대이네 뭐부터 내제 동이 요쇼 선물하잖아 어지스라고 그리고 그게 되지 되네도 그래서 정말 제가 잠보치래 저도 되게 칼라지 않고 갖고 되는 주제야 로다 근데 왜 라무 등을 야라로 지않고 마데부 등을 마치 데데 로지 않고 안 받을 제 랑가 로탄 좀 미싱을 들 랑가도 대한 세배 다만 지역에 지도하나야 가게 하나 지시를 또 어떻게 지르쳐던 미싱 뭐하는 뭐 여러와 대단한 되지 않고 어떻게 자와담보래 제가 대자와담보들이 지서를 되어있나 근데 소소 기계사본이 별로하다 대인들은 마바라니야 아니 대진 요하다 마바라니 제공 운동한 예배까지 시다로라는 라야가 안된다 주제는 용어로 제가 나 자사와라서 mambo ibinanda jisuranda 대대신으로 찍으래 sambo jibe chogan 차사 라 소소련으로 다가나 차사와도 주바포와도 어떤 상황에서 소련으로 mambo 이제 어떤 상황이다 게세페리아나리스
So as we discussed from the beginning of our text that talks about how one's position, body, and so forth can be protected, purified, enhanced, and so forth, right? So we talked about that.
You speak up a tiny bit.
You're not mic'd very well. We can't hear you. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Come here, just.
Don't care.
No.
Yeah, come here, yeah, that's okay, yeah,
No.
no problem, yeah. just-
I came a long way. I want to understand.
Absolutely.
Well,
It's my
I
job.
won't understand if I don't hear.
My job is to convey and make sure that you guys understand.
Good luck.
The protecting, purifying, and enhancing, and those are the things that we talked about earlier during beginning of our teachings, right? So now we are all the way down to the verse 25, where it talks about you should perform the ritual.
25?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Thank you.
You should perform the ritual of good conduct, which is referring to ritual good conduct. Here refers to the prayers of Samantabhadra. So it says, perform the ritual in accordance with, in other words, in the original text, it's in accordance with prayers of Samantabhadra, and then performing the reverence and so on with this respect. The reverence and so on within that includes the 7 limb practices, prostrations, making offering, and so on. So now, we are at this point where it says, according to some of the other prayers, we should be practicing to enhance one's good conduct. In other words, it says good conduct. Of course, when we speak about good conduct, there are various good conduct for the body, speech, and mind. And one of the very important practice that really enables one to enhance one's good conduct is to the practice of rejoicing the good deeds of others' good deeds. Rejoicing others' good deeds, even if one sees a very minor good conduct when someone is performing, instead of criticizing, instead of still having a motivation of a sense of competitiveness or contemptuous attitude towards them, if one rejoices that individual's good conduct, even if it is a minor, that benefits oneself greatly. Otherwise, normally what happens with us as ordinary being, our mind is completely engaged by ignorance, which prevent us from rejoicing the good conduct of others and others' virtuous deed. We always have, when we look at and when we see those individuals who's actually engaging in good conduct, we either have, motivation of criticizing or looking and having a contentious attitude towards that, which actually prevents us from enhancing or developing our spiritual quality. So it is, if one really considers oneself as a really practitioner, one should always look at one's mind and to look at what kind of motivation that one is having, what kind of attitude that one may have towards someone who's engaging in good conduct. If one is able to do that, then it says in the text that just a little effort, one can accumulate tremendous amount of merits, is rejoicing the good conduct of the virtuous deed of others. The part of practice of the practice of rejoicing is actually included within the 7 million practices, which one of most important part of practice, because that root, that this also become a remedy for pride and egoistic thought, having this rejoicing for the good conduct of others. So therefore, if we see someone who is actually engaging in good conduct, even the minor things, when someone is helping a sick person, or someone is, offering a food to someone who is hungry, and giving even a bottle of water when someone is when you see someone who is when someone is thirsty and so on. If you see someone who are people or individual who are engaging in such conduct, just also be rejoiced. It is important for us to be rejoiced those conducts instead of criticizing and having a contentious thought amongst those people. That's very, very important. And then also when you see someone who is actually giving away clothing when it is very cold, and giving a physical help, offering a physical assistance, someone who is having physical difficulties, or someone who's actually even giving a direction, it's also a really good comment. So when you see those, even those kind of, one should not ignore that kind of stuff. One should not, when we look at it, when you see this, when someone's doing this kind of, it is all good conduct. One should always rejoice in those. And not only that one rejoice, but also think that I may not be able to help at this point to that individual, but I greatly rejoice into someone who is helping. And I pray and dedicate their merits and virtues towards all sentient happiness of all sentient beings. And also, may I be able to become, helpful for all those beings who are, who need it, the food, shelter, you know, um, medicine, so on and so forth. So, and so then one should not rejoice in any evil deeds, any bad conduct, because that is, we have this in us, this kind of attitude that we have, because when we see someone is scolded, someone whom you dislike is scolded by somebody or the boss or someone, you rejoice in that. You'll be so happy and this is what he deserved, and that's what we have, this kind of motivation, which should not be done as a practitioner. This will then, actually taking down our root of virtue. So therefore, it's always, one's mind should be always equipped with this practice of rejoicing, which is very, very profound practice. In other words, that is just that, you don't have to put in a lot of effort. It's just to modify your motivation and try to substitute or try to, generate motivation of rejoicing others in the place of contentious thought.
차살라서 그말 차스 다 대발라서 따도 공스도 대발라서 따도 공 다소리는 뭐 무슨 일이야지 다 지금 그 대발지 제가 다 대발라서 따도 공스 근데 대발을 넣어서 봤다서 아니 레지레니 상황이 봐 뒤따도 돼 공을 해서 줄로 공스 다 되는 다 대발로 따도 공세 되게 손도와 대발세 지지 따도세 지지 너 공세 지지 다 소리는 뭐 대발이다 아까는 지워지 뒤 따도세 지지 너 공세 지지 손이 되고 자dan 것도 공지가 있나 참 생들의 지도는 저도 시비지 공원에 들어오래 다 대바세야 가르치려고 그래. 알림을 저 따도 고양이 대바세가 가르치. 등등제고 제고. 대바대 보면 마시는 뒤다도 고양이스케요 말로. 대바 많이 배주 본로 와 있는 안에 누구요 말. 은 대바 고만 나시게 소소 줄이야. 디비티 용고요 말로. 제가 대바로 보면 디비 중요한 대바 힘이지. 공부를 말도 대바 많이 빠져 공나 안에 대바로 보면 디비티랑 줄이고 또 말로 제가 대 만화와 공부 듣기 좀 그래. 저 대바스야 되다. 저당으로 대비용어 대비기와 대바스야 되나 유용을 하지나 이완으로 손시에 되거든요. 저당도 소대 뭔가 근디는 저 용대 그러셔서 네 대바들다 예측이 대바스지 용라선데 예측이 대바스 하는 거다. 아예 대바스 하는 거. 문제가 대바스네. 또 정하나 되고 아드네이나 은 다음에 대바스에 간다지. 예측이 대바스에 간다지. 문제가 대바스에 간다지. 다다서 뭐 가고 공부를 대바 오나 저 다음에 대바스에 되다 나주 고생이 저라만 지마 어디 시와이나 군조선라 소베 다다기 있니 군조선 전배 유대지 유대 통해 생당와서 다 군조선에 사지고 주고 군조 라 소바다 하는 소소 때라마 다 안에 소소 계시네 라 소바 다다기 투지고 유대데 ene yudelo toni interesse dans c'est c'est dans la temps on nous a dit que j'ai de voyer seigneur c'est dans la bien kunjo son la so tadagi koson du yudelo toni ta pe wori sanbe so so ke ne lo jale jana ma te tolba yang jian yo pe wori yudelo shibin 산지 구조자 추구자 근데 구조자 위전 위전 제제 세고라고 다 적응 가도록 디마치가 이제 지난 위전에 다도 사면님의 담에서 해주고 건데 파력한다 세하는 것 어떻게 담아서 위전 제제 세고로 하다 어떻게라서 위전서 또 레전냐고 시바지는 그거를 여러가지 빼야 버려서 구조성 근데 위전에 돈이 तेरे सोचो कि पैसे दामादर संबंध न्योबर में छु दामादर संबंध छु न्योबर में बदे छु दामादर तो जब सेंग ने जिन दो चार ने पता है दादा अने कंट्रोल से बते देखी है मेवा जे पूरी छुयो के सांलो ना के पे पूरी छुयो तो वो तो मिचो ना जे के अने फिर जो कंट्रोल बता जे जे कंट्रोल बते कुछरा यो मारो पैसे सामान जो तो वो पूछ निकाल तेना ये मेरा के सेंदे लोंगे के ले मेवा अने पे दामा दोच चुने मन पे दामा ही बिच अने तेया पे कुंजो सोना सो तदा के कोसों तो युदे तो तोने तेले सो पे दामा जिने ये रामा जिने और ने जी बचले अने तामे ते वासो
So the text here is the last two lines of the verse 25, which says, constantly practicing faith and so forth.
Right.
Well, it says constantly practicing faith and so forth, and so on. Sorry, and so faith. Here, now let's focus on the faith here. It says constantly. There are three things that actually says constantly. Constantly meditate faith. So there are three things that we need to understand. Once the faith needs to be meditated constantly. meditated and constantly. So there's three things right here. That devil also taught to come into that emphasis, but it's pretty much the same. It's constant practice and faith and so on. So gom, which means to meditate. So now let's talk about faith here. So I'll be elaborating the faith in accordance with the rhythm question. There are three kinds of faith. There are three kinds. One is the clear faith, which is Taoist divine Tibet. Another one is Vishiki Deva, the convinced faith. The second one. And the third one is to Wandriki Deva, which means to longing faith. It's called the longing faith. So those are the three kinds of faith. When we talk about I have faith in three jewels, we should check those whether your faith is consists of those qualities or not. So here now, first let's talk about what is meant by clear faith. Clear faith is pretty much close to the one that we talked about earlier of rejoicing the virtues of others. For instance, when we say that I have faith in faith in three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, one's faith must be generated based on understanding the qualities or the characteristic of those Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And having understood properly, that is, the characteristic of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, one's mind becomes very clear with no, influences of any, doubts and so forth. And one has, from the depth of one's heart, one really become inspired by the qualities, by understanding the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. That's what is meant by clear faith. For instance, and the little kids, their mind is very pure. It's very pure with a free of, not completely, but at a fear of better, much clearer and much purer than the adult mind. But there's more honest. Honesty is there in the kids. When they're angry, they will show their anger. When they're happy, they'll show their happiness. And when they think that they know something, they will show their knowledge, and so on and so forth. It's so pure, and when they're very low. But then as we grow, then our mind become more complicated. And those complications are mostly due to defilements, negative thoughts and emotions. So therefore, when we talk about clear faith, and the one in some sense, one's clear faith should be that of like a child's or the children's mind, which is very, honest. Honesty is very important in this part. So not just taking part, having faith in three jewels, but blindly, or just when someone has said it is good to have a faith in this, but rather one should understand the qualities and characteristics of those three jewels, and then have the faith in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
Tendaki Tang Devan Rabaji, Jia the Begalic of Yudua, and the Bianole, saying the Begunjoso, and saying to Dua. So Maruzo to the Shinjunana, 다 저, lama inandra, kage inandra, tazale, mo teba je kabodo wa. Chadon ko, chi teba je ko tene, tazu teba je ko, juan da chi, chungju ji tong yung da, tong xiao da, so so, ji jinan pake, paro ku yue le, juan yue yin ro. Ji jinan pake juan me wa ni, so nang to ke juan so ni tong yue ro. Kanda ma, chi, nyamong ki wang da so ni. Chasa pe, sen tangwa ro we, pe ngani pake tangwi teba de, tangwa de, chune mana tsama tsangjan ro we, chi sen tangwa chi, ki pake teba chi da hana, pe kawa xiu xiu ro wa. Chazan dine yin du, pake tangwi teba ro so, yu de ngani pake so so ngani, jaa jaa tangwa ro we chi pe, yu den tan den nge, juan me wa dine chi tato wa chi kwa kwa yu sar wa. Dine juan na nang so, tan de ngani pan xiu chi re, lo jaa jaa tangwa tali ya. Ani, teba chi che to kwa yu sar wa, tangwi teba sa. Dine chi kwa kwa yu sar. Dine chi yu wa la, pena kunjo so taba ro chi dine yu wa ina la, ta kunjo so la ya, tangwi teba chi che wa la, kunjo so yu den chi tong kwa wa. Yu den de lo me wa chi tong kwa wa. Shin ju shiba chi che wa. Xiang xieba sa ma yu, so da rani ki pe che wa chi ni. Tong tuwa chi kwa kwa yu da, uni, nang ju cheng wa mu chi so wa na chi, shi ni teba tuwa chi. Tuma la, so da rani ki che wa chi ni, xiang xieba sa ma chan yu ma yu, so da rani ki che wa chi ni, so da rani ki pe yu mu ni tu, tong tuwa chi kwa kwa yu. Ne yu ni da mu tu, ji kun jo song ki yu den ro wa chi, sam yu tani tang yu teba le che wa la, kun jo song yu den kan tsu dong lo jo che wu do che yin ni. Che da, tene yin di da lo jo de ki cheng bu cha yung kwa. Tene ki, ka da ki de so so tang yu teba che wa la, te yu den tong wa, te yu den tong wa la, te yu den kan shin yu te chi ma che wu wa. Che da, san ji de yin, san ji sing de be, tene juan ku den yin ba, yu den ku den yin ba. Tene chi tong tu wa che wu wa. Ani pe rangi wa tada le chuwa, shenji wa tada le tada ki wa yinwa. Kwa la nye ru me wa, pen tama na tam je ki tuen de, tu me, zeng me, le yi do mo do, ta su da ki gu gu yinwa. Ani tada ki chu ku jo siya de pe, mwa den tama mde siya de. Ani tuwa la ji den ba siya de pe, chu na ji ne ru ngu su to de pe, to be shirab che ba chi. Tene ji tegi tene nyu mo, pang de pang pang wa de siya, chan di chi, to yu ya ba. Ani gintu kujo zayada tendewe ngwa den talang den sengi tini jia ngui de jula den dengi tini pabe kanza. Ani Kurang zoga pe kaji niru tang salang toba kandas ranjul jia yawa tuzo de shinju shiwe jia gu tangu jia tangu zoda o tuzi tunda jin tati wa shiwe rana nune tenda ji jia gu tuwa ni tangi teba ji jia wala jia jina mzi tila yapi ji yung kawo sara jindwa jia tang tenda ji gogo, tenda ji yung wala lo yung mambu jia gu durwa tiba mambu jia gu wala yang yang sang gu wala ane yang yang gu ni ane rangu jia le ya ane baga teba tseden shi tangwe teba tseden shi ane jia tuwa ji jia gu wala wa tenda yin sari tenda yin gu jia sama.
So normally for us, we are lacking this clear faith, for sure. If one examine one's mind, one will be able to see that we are completely lacking this clear faith. For instance, we are not having a right faith to one's guru, one's spiritual guidance. Even though one try to cultivate some faith, but there's always one, we have a tendency of finding some kind of faults in that individual to whom one consider as a spiritual teacher or guidance. That actually prevents us from, cultivating pure, clear faith. It is really difficult to have this clear faith in us. Maybe the fault that we find in others possessed by the gurus and one's spiritual guidance. Maybe that's possessed by them, or maybe it is superimposed by one's own thoughts. But this is what is happening all the time. It is not really easy for us to cultivate this clear faith. For that, if we examine ourselves, our mind, we will know that. So the clear faith is something that is very important. For instance, it's think about the qualities of the Buddha, or the three jewels, and understand the qualities of the three jewels, and should have a convincing faith, or convinced by uh, their, you know, their qualities, how the three jewels quality, the qualities of the three jewels is accomplished. How, because the reason why we were taking refuge in three jewels and practicing is not that you just keep practicing and you know, and then hoping that you will be, you will be led by this three jewels, or you will be uh, going to the place, in other words, of the three jewels. This is not what we were practicing. Our main practice is to become oneself with the embodiment of three jewels. That is what we were practicing. In order to do that, then it requires studies. Without studying, the qualities cannot be found, cannot be defined. So therefore, studying, contemplating, in other words, hearing the teachings of the great masters, written by the great masters, contemplation and meditations will then be able to, uh, one will able to have, uh, one will be able to see the qualities of the three jewels and how the Buddhas become a complete Buddhas, how the Buddha actually completely exhausted his or his faults, and how the Buddha embodies all those qualities of knowledge and so forth. For that, because receiving the teachings, numerous teachings, constant contemplation, meditations. Similarly, when it comes to the Dharma, the actual Dharma is the cessation and the path leading to cessations are the actual Dharma. And how this path and cessation of suffering, or cessation of defilements can be accomplished, and what kind of practice that is required for one to achieve those qualities of cessation and path. And again, here it requires a rigorous practice, listening to the teaching Dharma, and meditations. This kind of qualities, let alone that one will be accomplished by one, just even by having a proper understanding, it's not possible if one doesn't steady listen, contemplate, and meditate. So therefore, it requires all this. Similarly, Joe um, uh, Sangha. It's also someone who possesses those cessation and the path. And how does Sangha possess this? How can one one have this position of this cessation and the path leading to cessation? And again, it requires steady listening to the Dharma, the teachings, contemplation, and meditations. It is through this one will be able to generate clear faith in individuals.
난 이거 예식이 돼봤어야 돼. 예식이 돼봤어야 돼. 생기는 거지. 너는 무엇이고 저기 손에 땡들 레당 저기 수사가 상에 지냐 봐서 상부 다 저기 손에들 중된데 다 저와 산지 샤자 두바기 얘는 가로 손을 냈더니 땡디가 나게 손을다 그래서 더블 주의 코인에 소라 땡겨 코가 문이비 시도 소만하지 그래서 더블 주의 또다 중된이 가르네 버는 땡디가 나게 내 말에 제가 땡들을 제 승리대 때도 그리도 이나다 땡들을 땡이 이제 봐 소원데는 아 문제 돈이 봐 참았다는 소용 거 제가 땡에서 좀 담아서 주지 진짜라 집에 길에 땡이 돈이 줘야 주다 그 편들은 길에 땡들 돈이 줘야 근데 마도 안에 강라야 마대 바탕 강다야 만들 봐 근데 라자와 주 강양 매봐 사이드 소유를 제가 때에 땡들 대나지기 레단 지고 그래서 레 생각 자와 제가 레 잡고지잖아 이제 되지 용거래 랭에 봐지는 이제 동의 용거래 네 레 맞지 받아 말이야 레지가 주마서 와 아니 레 내봐 사서 와 어디라게다 레리 나게 돼 단 나머지비 주역이 되네 다 지시 샤산으로부터 다 그래 랜디디 시샤 샤도샤 디디니디니 뭐고 거야 맞아 랜디미나네 포강그 제는 되고다 제가 다버 랜디디 마다 메기 파레 뭐고 단도 있네 메기를 뭐고 단도 있네 랜디 생각다 뭐고 단도에 제가 랜디리야 뭐가 빼시다 주니 매다 와 맞아 메지 진짜야 제비 담아드는 이거를 채우고도 지 제대로 이제 머신 되는 소가 좀 되나지 내리 되는데 내가 내는데 저 잡을 때는 지금 대체다 저 내가 지금 두는 요 단이 봐 내가 봐서 아드네 저 산지 제외가 되는 소야 아니 나긴 되고 레상할 때는 되고 다 줄을 때는 되고 줄라티는 디글라티는 준조야 참 내가 나게다 준နေ소유도 와와트 숨바테 근데 근데 디지 숨바라는 거 전도 사나 지금 강수만하게 들어가라 이사에 삼베 근데 별로 자세자 담아대 대가는 번로 투하잖아 근데 내지기도 소소가 세는데 당한도 못 나오지 대마도 치 소소가 나오지 대마도 그래서 모두 사베 저기 바바 다는 문이 처음 봐서 텐데기 소소 용도하지다 텐데기 용도가 대바치에서 텐데기 대바다냐 아니 이치 대바 세월 저 산지기 손배 텐데기 나야다 텐데기 나야 대소 소소가 지만지 마동이나야 소소가 주대 레니나 테네 산지기 소소가 문이 레제다 그러다 문도 삼배 근데 소소 세 담아도 그러지 않나 텐데기
So the next is the convinced faith. Okay, this convinced faith. We talked about three kinds of faith, right?
Right.
So this is the convinced faith. The convinced faith again must be cultivated based on understanding the teachings of the Dharma, the teachings given by the Buddha, particularly the teachings of the Siksa Samuccaya, of the dependent motivations, interdependence, as Buddha has stated after his enlightenment, that the nectar like the Dharma that I have found. So nectar, the Dharma that I have found, when he talks about the nectar Dharma, it refers to the subtlety of the tender or dependent originations. That is what is he meant by nectar Dharma that I have found. So now it is based on Buddha's teachings on the dependent originations and the Buddha's teaching on the law of cause and effect. the law of cause and effect. When one is convinced by this truth of law of cause and effect and dependent originations, then one will be able to have this convinced faith. Particularly for us as a initial practitioner, having a proper, one should establish a proper thought on the mind that actually have appreciation, the proper appreciations to the law of cause and effect. It's very, very important. Because sometimes we're lacking that. We're not thinking about the consequences of one's own actions. We are not thinking about, because we are not being able to think about the consequences of our actions, then we keep on, we keep repeating the negative deeds of the body, speech, and mind. That really indicates that we're not having a real appreciation of the law of cause and effect. If one is lacking this kind of, this, then, well, the convinced faith will not be generated. Because the teachings of the Buddha must be practiced. In other words, the Dharma must be practiced based on appreciation to the cause and effect, law of cause and effect. We may be able to cheat other people. One maybe get out of one's misdeeds without being charged by others. But we cannot be able to escape from this law of cause and effect. Once one is done, when one was committed this cause, actions, and its result will be experienced. Just like once we were taken a rebirth as a human beings or whatever the beings, we cannot escape the death. Death is inevitable. Similarly, the consequences of our actions are inevitable. This must be understood. Because sometimes we think that, well, should be okay, there's a little bit of, minor negative actions, it should be okay. So we take very lightly. That indicates we're not having a convinced faith in the teachings of the Buddha. So once you have already committed the cause, once you have committed the actions, the result will be experienced. Therefore we say, once you have committed the actions, the result is inevitable. And once the action that is not committed, the result will not be experienced. That's what it says. So therefore, if one engages in positive deeds, suddenly one experiences positive results. If one engages in negative deeds, one, experience the negative result. This cannot be escaped at all. But it's 100% sure that this will happen. So that what's happening is that we are not having this kind of convincing. We're not convinced by this, teachings of law and cause and effect, not having appropriate appreciation. So when one becomes 100% appreciations to those teachings of the law of cause and effect, then one will be able to have this convinced faith. As a sign of having this convinced faith, says once one will have a special feelings. That feeling really, even the pores of one's body, the hairs would stench, and the tears will come out from one's eyes, or tears was rolling down the cheeks and so forth. This kind of faith is needed. for this rule, then this is the indication of having a convinced faith in the qualities of the three jewels and the teachings of the Dharma.
다소 뭐든 문제 되봤어야 돼. 문제 되봤어야 돼. 다소 좀 무슨 되게 자기 지난다는 소리도. 대바지 소상이. 대바지 나야상다니. 대바지 내서상다니. 동네 대바도 우리 대바네. 아니 빠져이 바다. 고베 대바다 라지 대바네. 터져이 봐. 손 대한민국의 소속의 최진도 소속의 나라지니 메시지가 있나? 누구냐 봐줘야 받아. 뭐라는 사람들이 더 줘야 봐. 어떤 날이 대한민국 누구냐 봐줘 받아. 는 뭐라는 사람들이야. 제 누구냐 된다지 시비 도와네. 근데 누구냐 봐니 뭐라니 사람들 아무도 저ኛ배 된다지 도와네. 근데 세 다운 지려야. 근데 문제 되가서 어떤 일이래.
So then the last is the longing faith that we talked about, the three kinds of faith, clear faith, convinced faith, and the longing faith. The longing faith is based on understanding of the Four Noble Truths, the teachings of the Four Noble Truths. It's suffering and the cause of suffering, recognizing the suffering and cause of suffering is to be abandoned, and recognizing the cessation and the path leading to the cessation is to be accomplished. And one has a strong motivations or the genuine motivations to engage in those practice, the practice of abandonment of the suffering and the suffering and the cause of sufferings, and strong or the genuine aspiration to achieve cessation and the path leading to cessations, and understanding the possibility of overcoming those, possibility of eliminating this suffering and the cause of sufferings, and possibility of accomplishing, the possibility of achieving those cessation and path leading to it. So if one is able to have this, then one is said to be generated the faith or the longing faith.
다 되네 대바 송보 나도 대바 다지 강다 대바세야 가는 집에 다 뒤다도 공세야 다도 공세야 돼 정말 지상에 담아야 가디이나 아니 하나 주모서 칼라세야 돼 가디이나 다소서 제네 마시 바데 사야 도한테다 파르마치 바우서 론주고도 되나시스고 근데 바데 아니 되레니 담아야 가디이나 소소 아니 대바데 뒤다도 너 공부해서 다 공부해야 돼 나지가 뭐나 차려 먹으려고 동반이 공원이 지나와 있는 또 처음에 자주가 생 공원에 그래 가보는 지래 이나 공부해야 돼 지금 가리는 거예요 이제 미리 자주 생 공원 동반이 공원 가라 보는 데 아니 소소소 공원에 데 근데 와서 들에 못하는 샤테를 못다 대리는 제 원하는 데 아니 강반도 못하는 원하는 데 그래서 나를 잘해 동안 가는 되는 원하는 데 지금 뭐지 그래 고모 무것에서 요즘 너무나 무여래 얘네다 마음이다 제산지고 꼴는 거다 그래서 다이라미고 꼴는 거다 다 그냥 뭐가 되는 거야 뭐에 대한 데야 뭐가 쉬어서 뭐래 간다장 공부해야 돼 공부하고 싶고 그래 안에 먼저 유지고 그래 봐 어디인데 근데 대 공에 로지 거거래. 제가 공부 버스는 좀 강사들이 되게 강사들이 뭐자고 요새 뭐다 막에 산지 군이라서 강사 가는데 되지. 다들 공에 로지 공부다 공부 써야 돼. 야양 집을 집에다 공부 쓰고 공자고 요당 대 공개 로니 못해. 근데 야양 집을 제가 공부 쓰라고 그래. 제가 당하는 나중 저도 소소가 살로 나면 된다 뭐 가디오 로르코나 된 맞이 버주는 되도 근데 가라데베 거이는데 내가 집에 그냥 로레 야야야 되는도 제가 동반이 있는데 자주 그세는데 가나 강 공부에 대당 랑기 로니 배 공지야 못되니 가디오 있는 로레데 근데 배 양세 용 도와줘 줘 그래 근데 지금 대한배 세계도 다는 다른 근데 니세 권도 근데 랑이 법소와 제목을 나나 슈슈스랑 물어야 요도 되려다 주명은 뭐 törté서 되는 거로 제가 대바해야 돼. 또 거는 좋아하나 이래 고조송게 여대에서 안에 담에 대바 제게는다 엔딩은 나야라서 버텨서 아니고 숨어서 제목부터 소소게 또 거기 때니 이제 대바 이난다 내지게 안에 랑도게 서라 상니 는 권한이 라고 줘라 저 타바 저 냥베 되게 토니 문제가 되바 뭐하게 있는다 어다 그냥 간지러서 상당히 내가 내다데 내다데 랑 용어는 봐 아니 야야 요는 아니 다른 메시지 넣을 때는 배나는 슈슈게 랑 줘라 용도 그래서 그거 제가 근데 중요한 안에 뒤 따도 마고나 근데 내지 보면 상태는 요도 있어서 따도 고 제가 내가 돼가지고 있는 안에 소소는 고성을 잡았대 고성을 잡아 내봤대 파이시니 그 고성을 잡아 용도 남보지 타래 잡아 남보지 타래 안에 안 도와 용거 소소 고성을 잡아대 안 뒤따도 잡아 남보지 타래 따도 주이나 안에 가디나 내지가 주되지 마도 지금 동행 지금 누구야 말 자 내지가 주장자도 등을 주시는 말은 안에 라는 동행 주는 거야 말 가디 내지 거 말로 고야 돼 되시더라고 도선 저 차대에서
So therefore it says now practice constantly, right? In the good text it says constantly practice faith and so on. So it is encouraging us to not just practice sometime and just leave aside. And then when you remember the practice, that's not what it's suggesting here. In fact, it's saying constant practice is something that's very, very important. It's really telling for us to say the constant practice. The three faiths need to be practiced constantly, or in other words, in the root text, the original root text, it says meditate through the faith constantly. Constantly meditate on faith, it says. Just like we need to mills our day-to-day life, without which we will not survive. We need to, every day, at least, if not 3 times, 2 times of meals. Similarly, this kind of meditation on faith should be adopted as we adopt the actions of eating, drinking, and so on. So now, when it says in the text, it says meditate constantly on faith. Of course, when it comes to meditation, there are different kinds of meditations. The subtleties of meditations, meditation on emptiness, meditation on bodhicitta. All of these are the kind of belongs to the subtle type of meditations. But meditation can be anything. One can choose any kind of objects that can be object of one's meditations. One's body can be meditated, chosen as an object of meditations. Flowers, uh, house, even one's own car, and something, any kind of objects can be chosen for one's meditations. However, most of the time, we as a practitioner, we choose to have, we choose the Buddha's image as one's object of meditations, or sometimes we choose as one's own root guru as one's object of one's meditations. So whatever the object that one may have chosen, and one is familiarizing one's mind with that particular object is said to be the meditating. So meditation involves three things, primarily of three things: meditator, object of meditation, and the mind that meditates. So those are the three things that is in there. So meditator, an individual, and object that has been chosen for one's meditations, and the mind that actually being, familiar with that particular object, sort of as the mind that meditates on this particular object. So this is all. This is the general way explanation of what is meant by meditations. But in this particular thing, in this context, when we talk about meditations, constant meditation is meditate on three faiths. The faith that we talked about earlier, convinced faith or clear faith, convinced faith, or the longing faith. I think by reflecting one's mind upon the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and teachings of the Buddha, such as teachings of Four Noble Truths, teachings of dependent origination, teachings on law of cause and effect, and teachings on emptiness, and so on. So all these reflections will become meditation on faith, because this convinces us, and this really establishes us at seat of actual faith, the faith we talked about. Faith we should not, as is always said, that faith should not be something that is blind or that has no reasonings, but faith is always based. One's faith to rituals must be based on sound reasoning. That's what we want to say that. So therefore, if one is able to do that one day and night, if one is able to engage in this practice constantly, then at some point such practice or the faith practice or meditation on faith will become natural without putting in any efforts. It doesn't require any efforts. One will be able to, have this faith, constantly and innately within us. So, so if one is able to do that, then this will, you know, this will prevent us from engaging in negative deeds of the body, speech, and mind, and always lead us to engage in the positive actions of the body, speech, and mind, which we need, which we practitioners should be in this way.
다들 장다 산지 수업된 자세들이 장다 산지 수업된 자를 장다 세들 장바공 받들이 산지 수업된 자 산지 지스템 바세들이 저는 장바공 세야지 동안다 단지 장바 동안다 단지 니지 대화가 되는 장바 뭐가 쓰지 되냐면 나바 동안 되는 대화 인지 세네 이제 뭐 동화의 단적인 니제다 대화의 대적이 장바 그래서 라이에서 담지 근데 대화의 되는 지만은 냥배 같은데 상관들이 근데 상관 근데 야야 제니 랑세다 되니 야야 리버 제베나 공 같은데 지만들 장바 공바스 산지 수아 텐자다 산지 지스 템바 산지 지스 템바 세야데 또 대본에 지난 거는 내가 건너야 써야 보여. 산지에게 대반제 샤조가 내한테는 론 네 네데 지금 그래 대단 남도 어느 산지 게 고정도 유된대야 제가 다산 이제 대단 저도 주변에 산지가 숨 이해들이 산지가 숨은 안에장 근데 너도 돈이 좀 비디오 또 많이 이벤트는 또 우리 돈이 좀 걸. 대소데 돌아지는 대소기 회사지기 최단지 라문이 좀 동안 라서 다게 내다 된지비클라데 산지 가르테야 산지 생인데 배자다 말아오지 뭐 아니 이니 이거 라트 이거로 제가 어떤 산지 지스 대단데 진내 고들 로비카래야 안내들한테 지음비카래 들었대니 산지 무슨 도이 된대야 아니 산지기 소를 대소리야 소소 최선 고소 제니 tenar tenye sanji ene kadri jistya tara sanji jite ju shi so na ji wato jin sanji jistya se tene jire
Interesting.
The last line of the verse 25 where it says loving kindness, recollections of the Buddha and the rest what it says. Right? So then this suggests the importance of practicing or you can meditate on loving kindness. What love is in this it says it's only love, practice of love. But in the commentary it's about practice love and compassion. So commentary.
And the rest?
And so now what is what is it?
So it's,
We'll come that later.
okay.
Yes, yeah. What is it? I got a little bit there.
Sorry, loving kindness, recollection of the Buddha's.
Okay, what?
Sorry.
That's okay, that's okay.
Won't do it again.
That's okay. So, okay, I got it. First, by reflecting one's mind upon the practice of one's love, the practice of love is to having a genuine wish to, wishing a genuine wish, happiness upon all sentient beings. Not just ordinary happiness, but a genuine, ordinary wish, but a genuine wish of happiness upon other beings. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness that we all recite, which is familiar with all of us. And then compassion is to having a genuine wish to overcoming the suffering for other sentient beings, and this too need to be meditated. And try to make this meditation natural, effortless, which requires a lot of efforts and practices, right? So then it says recollections of the Buddha and the rest. So we shall speak this. What are the encapsulation of the rest will explain later, but the recollections of the Buddha, first of all, let's talk about this. How do we recollect Buddha in the practice of recollection of Buddha? Remembering the Buddha. Normally, it is ideal to, visit the sacred place of the Buddha, such as the place where he has given the teachings, place that where he had, had a significant spiritual activities, and the most important recollection is to studying the teachings given by the Buddha, such as teachings on emptiness, and teachings on the stages of the path to enlightenment, and particularly the teachings of emptiness. Because when one studies the teachings of emptiness of the Buddha, contemplated and meditating, this will then give you a special sense of connectedness, a sense of closeness with the Buddha, by seeing how wonderful it would be if I would be able to receive the teachings from the Buddha himself, and that kind of feelings that you will have. And so then you will see the Buddha is the spiritual teacher, unlike other spiritual teachers, who really teaches us very unique way of achieving happiness and overcome sufferings. So those are all for the practice of recollection to the Buddha is to study and practice of the teachings
What
of
is-
the Buddha. So then here it says one of the
Should I go to the door?
go to
Go ahead, Elvis.
yeah.
Oh, shoot.
So visiting a very sacred place of the Buddha is also very, very important to practice the recollections of the Buddha. Nobody?
Ghost, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Ghost.
That's good. They came to listen to teachings of Dharma.
What?
They came for teachings. So.
Yeah, but somebody must have came, the light was on,
Oh,
but, whatever, your wish.
okay.
Sorry.
Do you remember where you were?
Yeah, that's it. That's all done. Yeah. That's
이번엔 저한테는 저한테는
Do we have questions? Or
So this whole night, okay? So I don't mean to simplify the teaching, but every time you came to a point of rightful conduct, all the points, it seemed like it was saying you have to have the proper bodhicitta, the proper intent,
intention.
because then if you have that one, like, your heartbeat of intent of goodness, this is how it was explained to me. If you truly don't question, but if you have that intent of learning and being, open to it, okay, like your bodhicitta, the intent of your actions, correct? So all of these are actions, mental, reading, actions toward yourself. So would it be the same thing that you would apply bodhicitta in these instances, like when you're reading, you're actually educating yourself. You're becoming two people. You're becoming the person giving the wisdom, and you're becoming the person accepting the wisdom. Or is that, I don't know.
Okay.
But it seems like everything's intent. Like if you had your bodhicitta, you wouldn't get, if you don't steal, you'll never be accused of being a thief. You can walk in a room of gold and it's no problem. And I feel that if you have that protection of Buddhism, if you have that protection of the Dharma, you can walk in a room of sickness or illness or evil or whatever. And because your intent is to do good to promote the Dharma, even if you get killed, it's the right effort. You see what I'm saying? So you have a bunch of, in this, I got confused because it's like, no, you just do the right thing. And then you don't have problems. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quandしたとつまりてるかで、でなんてせものときにquandしこそ、このやられてるし、このそのこし、そこのこのそのやでね、のはりちゃわでそのチャリをバス。で、みだこういう感じでなんとしゃべね。で、みさんが感じでちゃわしたい、ちゃわしゃべるしべね。それもね、だってこのそのしゃべね。で、mil music make some members so society sidenga ya yeps and it's a was the pada potan din madus der kabla chik le sangen mo che tu che ni le kin de ya si se para de to de kan ro sta le kin de che de kan ro Colonia, Calabria, so and this two those so that she was in the Koran some job of generation.
Reda, munire, so kolora langrido, so kolora langride ya, kono chambar tene ya khabara, chana so, chana lyonga ki chawa mongbo chukolong jisan rango yore. Ene ya ko, kolong zambo juyo ine ya, yang ko, karisawre, ta pacham nembi wangi sare. Tena wagi ya lyugi chacho, ta ngagi mayu kagi ya, mato yen lyugi tena chawa, ko rini shon rogo yorwa, yungo yorwa, so tena yin ya, so ine ya lyunga nigi chawa de ya, yako chungul ki cham chawa gore. Nga kolong zambo juyo, kolong neba ke mezni, lyugi kanyu mayi chene ryugo amare. Nga kolong duwa ke mezni kanyu mayi chene ryugo yomare. 자, 그때 뭐지 뛰네. 저도 그걸 되네. 나 명안이 자디네. 서로 하고 싶은데. 그게 하고 싶다고 제가 기청 말해.
So it's mainly to watch one's own motivation that one has, an intention that one has is something that is very important, and not necessarily bodhicitta because we're not being able to generate bodhicitta. We may be able to do some kind of cultivate simulated bodhicitta at this point, but not real bodhicitta. We're not able to, but it requires practice, but it is possible for us to accomplish bodhicitta. But one's actions of the body, speech, and body and mind, also the body and speech, is really derived from one's motivations. So we would, the right way to say is to have a right motivation. Right motivation. It's very, very important. And also that not only that, but also sometimes we may have a right motivation that doesn't necessarily means that your actions of the body and speech becomes a right for the other people. Because we may have a good intention, but we think, I have a good intention, I want to do this, I want to have this kind of act, I want to say this, it may become offensive to others. So that's, again, here, we, as a practitioner, we should always examine our actions of the body, speech, and mind. That is what is important. Even though that you may have that, I have a very good intention.
Right.
I want to say this to this person. Out of good intention, I want to do something to that person. But then again, you have to step back and then look at that. Is it okay? Is it real okay for me to do that? Even though that you have a good intention and good motivation at this point, if you say something to that person, if the person get offended, again, that's a negative thing, what one is committing. Even if you do something to that person physically or helping or whatever, even though you have a good motivation, if that become offensive to that person, one is accumulating negative karma again. So we should, the most hard to analyze or to examine is our motivation, but also our actions of the body and speech as well. Very important.
Nice, thank you, that's
嗯，
nice.
这当
On
那边去那一呢，驴送啊，马送啊，也送啊是，什么送过来送过来了。那这当我说，那句跑着跑，大概就空着了呀，当食堂了呀，当这些解决所以呢，让你给驴的俺你给做这么多啊，但有可能的，我西边意思上，我都没有通推，我走让把嘛了，那一堆。kono ya boy ne pajo mu thong ma kono nge ba ne mu thong ma ta pajo mu ka thong le ko le de ja jo sang ne thong le an jo de ge ma jo sang ne de chu ro de de ma ro sa pajo go che ya kon ro ji wa ne pajo me de ge lu che dang ne kon ro ji ya da ma ma jo ko ro so che do pajo me de ge ka pa lo na jo ma de ke ja ka ma ge de wa ne mo na me de ma thong ma 다 메데기 가서로 나주 쪽으로 이제 어디 투자를 나서는 건로나 시간이 용도 왔잖아 아 코노세아데 라미 파조코노 통을 파조라니 코노 통을 다 드네도 뭐 아주 명안일 때네 아니 건로가 안 되셔서 또 권익지 지어서 코노서 뭐 기침벌에 때 남도 오늘 명안이 되어 버렸어 거기 되게
As we mentioned earlier, motivation is very important, but also importance of our actions of the body and speech. So to watch very carefully, closely to watch one's actions of the body and speech, because the motivation is abstract entity. That's something that cannot be seen, cannot be touched by other. Only the one who generates this motivation understands this motivation, but not other person. The individual to whom you are having interaction will not be able to understand your motivation.
Mhm.
But what the person will react is based on actions of the body and speech. So therefore, the body and speech, actions of the body and speech, making sure that something that doesn't become offensive to that individual. It's very, very, very important. As we talked about earlier, that motivation is important, but the actions of the body and speech, because other persons to whom you are having interacting, with the reaction is based on what we say and what we physically act, based on your physical manifestation and so on. So therefore, watch all those actions. Motivation is the first and foremost important, but then also the actions. Just cannot just say I want to say this because I have a good motivation. I want to do this because I have a good motivation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which I can examine to
Right.
examine this conclusion.
You're not God.
Yeah.
Okay.
这个我都没着急
You're，not.
没着急，咱们也不叫过位呢。网上还过过的，没咱们在做，国内咱们团体用过了，加上开始样，你们今天这个过来别给下子一道给我写，那就一道给我的，没得要我修进上，这会儿吧，那国内也不就没那，俺那去逻辑的那种这段呢，靠国内的人比靠。就可能明白了，觉得明白的看来我用的什么，我们没得么同不同的别样到不学的同的，咱们的国家或者什么都想着，就那用我的，个人没得同不同的什么，给这些咱别都不รู้去，那就得做个论调呢，可能可能也会个，你这样的，然后论的这个没得同不同的，别给这些咱都要进度，那就做进度，没都在学习在这样的。现在的老母这个没得养活起来，现在真的有多，加上我做两岸那个阶段的，好这个的，要我去中国，给中国现在普都当不能做的。
So I think just repeating that motivation is very important, but also actions of the body and speech also equally important. So, because if one is not have a habit of cultivating a good motivation, even though for some reason, for some purpose, one may say something very good to others. That happens. It's kind of hypocrite, right? You do not have a good intention, but you want to show off, thinking that you have a good intention. You want to say something very, you know,
All of the,
very something that praise someone, but you have a bad intention in it. But that kind of person will be, his or her motivation will be revealed eventually if you interact with this person for a long period of time. Because sometimes when someone talks very softly, gently, talks about benefiting others and so on and so forth, and right away we think that's such a good person. It's a really a nice person, a good person. He might become very helpful to our community and so forth. But then, due to the lack of actual intention, the good intention within the person, eventually, the more you interact with that individual, and then his or her, true color will be revealed.
so like,
Therefore,
the,
therefore,
sorry.
therefore, the intention is the most important. If you have a good intention, even though sometimes and somehow your speech or your body actions may become a little harsh, but as you interact with these people for a long period of time, and this your good intention will be revealed by your actions of the body and speech. That's the same.
So, while you were doing that, it seemed like sometimes people make the attempt that their intention is good, but the only person it's good for is them, number one, and then if it's good for you, that's okay. Is that,
That's it.
yeah, that's what I heard.
Sometimes so kunuyago ye something that kunuyago the social campaign to the kunuyago tiri kubas ajo the that's ya to ka chune na chune kan da tangi ti da ke kunu which kejen kan da ti social campaigns yongde samsung de yongde yorobas ati direction
그래 다들 충분히 시험에는 다 라디오 쳐도 버럭버럭하고 전도 그런데 충분히 시험에는 그런 하고 그거 말해. 나중에 이제 그런 라디오 들어가기 전에 그런 하고 충분히 그런 하고 말해. 그런 하고 쓰는데 라디오 쳐도 많이 봐. 근데 또 시험이야. 펜 이해는 또 이해는 펜색 보는지 뭐를 그런 하고 쓰거든. 아더 랑이 쳐도 랑이 리드 진루야 쳐도 안 버럭버럭지 약간을 제대해 주라. 대 주연 선수하는 그런 하고 쓰게 말.
So, according to Dharma, the good motivation, or positive motivation, is the motivation of helping others, genuine motivation of, serving, offering assistance or the service to others. That's a very good goal. Otherwise, if one thinks that I have a good motivation, but it's just thinking of one's own benefit, it may be good in the mundane point of view, but in the Dharma point of view, it's not a good motivation.
Right.
Benefiting oneself, it's only to benefit oneself. Yes, I want to do this and that.
Or looking for it.
Yeah, so it's not.
Rub shoulders.
We should say the dedication prayers.
Okay.
Beginning at page 23 and 24, and continuing with auspicious wishes, page 28. Saji Puki Sanje Jido Bide Boai Yogananda Yena Jagaran Ewa Kundu,
Yanda Lama Dan Jame Chuji Pela Lonjuji, Sada Lanju Yede Rodone, Raje Changi Gopan Yuto Sho,
Yedam Guru,
Pena Mandala Kandi Atayami.
Jetsun Mame Kuse,
Radenje Naga Jale Joju Jiba Tam Lozan Tembe Jume Sasu, Roye Mese Tato Ne Juroji.
Kami Rawe
Koye Shankasu Pedan Dewa Malu Juwe Chere Sewa Tinse Jansuri Shabe Sete Padu Ten Juroji
Chapel Babu,
Cheta Shemba Tang Gondo Sambo Teyan Tejen Tera Gwenji Jesu Daluji Gyawa Teta Tanje Rotomo Tesan Shebe Gyawa Tamji Nowa Kala Choto Mapa Te Dagi Give Sawa Dikwe Sambo Chuchi Roto Mowaraji. Okay, thank you.
Because what can I say?
Mention the Chuchi Manoki.
I need to be tested.
Deixa uma vez.